Hello and welcome back to another episode of Cities Skylines 2. I just want to take a second real quick and appreciate some of the more beautiful moments that this game has, such as right now, right before sunset. You can see everything starting to get a little bit brighter. You have the beautiful lights in the sky and just fantastic detail and scenery in pretty much every building that we can see here. But anyway, back to our city and what we want to do in this episode. Firstly, we're going to address some things that we put up last episode, such as all this commercial that is for some reason having issues. I want to change around this farm a little bit and add some more features and services to this whole lower density area that we added at the end of the last video. So let's start with what I think is going to be the easiest fix, and that's just swapping out this farm. I realized a little bit after the last video, if we come in here, this is currently a chicken farm. If we look at our livestock farming industry, it doesn't say that it requires fertile ground. So I don't want to be wasting that space if it doesn't require that specific thing. So if we hover over to grain farming, you can see that right next to the noise pollution meter is the required resource, and that says fertile land. So I think we're going to switch out our livestock farm with a grain farm, just so we can take full advantage of the resources we have in this area. So we'll just get this placed down real quick and then just go around and trace out our farm again. There we go. And now, as we can see here, we have our grain farm up and running, and it should get settled in pretty soon and start populating this field with different assets. So next, I'd like to come and figure out why our commercial is saying not enough customers, and I think that might just be because it's all concentrated in one area. If we look here under our commercial zoning, you can sort of get an idea. I'm not really sure if it's coming across at all, but I think concentrating this much commercial zoning altogether only serves a small population, so probably these few surrounding blocks. So I think what we're going to do is just dezone these blocks and maybe one of these, and then we'll just swap the zoning. So then we'll do that, and then over here we'll throw in some medium density row housing. So now it's going to take a while for things to update in these areas, so we'll just let the city take care of it instead of just coming through and bulldozing probably a couple dozen buildings. But it should sort itself out eventually, and hopefully we'll start to see these bubbles go away. If not, I'm not too sure what we're going to do about it, as this game did just release, so it very much well could just be a problem with the game balancing. So then lastly, to address things that we already have, I want to come in and add a bunch of services and parks into this neighborhood so that all the residents here don't have to travel all the way over to our sort of main area to get resources. So first, let's start out with some parks, as the entire city itself has none. So we'll start out with this dog park, and we'll find a few nice areas where we could plop these down. So maybe one over here, and then I think maybe if we just get a small playground, we could pop that in probably right about here on this corner. And I think that's pretty much good for this area. If some people start to complain, I suppose we can always place more. And then As for this whole area, let's go ahead and add a plaza at this corner. And let's place one over here while we're waiting for all that zoning to fill in. So that'll pretty much cover this whole area. And we'll leave it as is for parks for now. So next we have our healthcare services. And it looks like we definitely need it over here. I'm not too sure why it's saying that we need some over here despite having one of these medical clinics right along our main road. But maybe when we place down this second one, that might change things. So we have a little bit more space over on this side of the neighborhood. So we'll plop that one there. And that didn't really make the streets any more green, so maybe it's just a visual glitch, or maybe the roads are displaying some other information. Not too sure. But let's continue on to our next thing. I think our education coverage is fine for now. Yeah, it looks like we cover most of the neighborhood, which is fine. As for fire, again, not too sure how our coverage is for that. Police, everything looks fine. And we haven't done anything with public transportation yet, so we're not going to touch that just yet. So if we take a look at our demands down here, there's a lot of demand for low density residential and industrial. And I don't really want to add a ton of industrial zoning on this island because I think this is going to eventually transform into our sort of center city area. This is going to be the most developed area, and I don't want to just fill it with a bunch of industry, especially this whole area over here, because I think we could do something pretty nice over here with all these trees and the hills. And I don't necessarily want to bring it over this way where things get thinner, and we'd probably want to use this for more specialized uses. So I think what that then brings us to is I think we're going to fill in this area with some industry and low density residential. I don't want to fill up this island with low density residential either, because again, I want this to be a very dense place, and we can have some pockets of it like here, but I don't want the majority of it to be low density. So I think we'll fill in a bunch of this space on the other side of this river with low density. So we are going to have to buy some tiles in order to do this, and we have 10 available to us. So let's go for, I think these 10 will probably be our best bet. So we have these so we can cross the water with our utilities, our water and sewage, so they can run on the same network. And then we have all this space so we can add a highway interchange and begin to build out this area. So now we have this little bit of land purchased. I want to come into our development tree, and I want to unlock highways, and I guess we'll have to unlock large roads, but mainly I want to unlock intersections, as this will give us a bunch of pre-made highway interchanges that comes with the game, and these will just save a ton of time when it comes to designing highway interchanges, as this will just make it a ton easier and quicker than having to do it ourselves. So after looking at some of these interchanges for a bit, I think we're going to go with this partial cloverleaf. I kind of like the somewhat compact design of the interchange itself, and it almost seems like we can just snap this right on if we get the angle just right. So we'll actually just delete some of this highway just to make things easier. So we'll delete this back to here, and hopefully that's enough space. if we just place this down, we might have to get a little closer here, although I don't want to mess up this interchange as we do this. But we'll try to get this rotated the way we want it. So I think right about like that. And we'll just place it. So there we go. Now we just have to connect up our two ends, and then we have this road that we can begin to build off of. Alright, so now we're all connected up and should be good to go. The only issue we had was a little swerve here in the highway, but I don't think it's anything too major. So we'll just keep it as it is and continue to go from there. So the way I want to zone this, I think, is industrial over in this area and residential over in this area, just because this area will line up a little more with our industrial area that we already have over here. So all the pollution and stuff that ends up getting created will be concentrated sort of in one area. Also, if we have cargo boats come through here at any point, it's a pretty short trip away. Also, I think if we just take a look at the wind direction, it is blowing out that way. So if we did flip it and had industrial over on this side of the highway, it would all blow over the residential neighborhood that we would have over here. So anyway, let's get on with building out our plan. So we'll get a medium-sized road to come out a pretty good distance. So we'll get that out to there. And then coming out this way, we'll extend this one out to there. And then maybe at some point, we'll curve it around and follow this coast. But I want to focus mainly on the industrial area for now. And I'm not too sure if it's a good idea to make this one big intersection. I kinda like that idea, but that might create traffic complications along the way. We'll give it a go. If it doesn't work, we can just delete the road and move the intersection later on. So we have that there. Let's get our industrial grid laid out. Alright, so I think this is about as clean as we're going to get the grid for now. It's a little hard to get the roads to line up sometimes, so we'll roll with this and just pretty much fill this all in with industrial. Hopefully this will satisfy the demand. And before we wait too long, we need to bring our water and sewage over across the river. So let's grab from here, and we'll just drag this pretty much right under this bridge, and we'll put one there so we can branch off to this side at some point, and then this one will just connect right up to our system over here. Actually, we're gonna scratch that and use the dual pipes that are in there. Completely forgot that those were there, but we can get our water and sewage together without having to run two separate pipes. So now that we have that deleted, we can just grab this combined pipe, come here, grab that, and then just pretty much do the same thing. Come over here to some spot and then connect up to our road. So if we look closely, everything's connected up as it should be. And we have power issues. So we'll just quickly plop down a transformer station, and from one of these power poles, we'll just connect that up like so. And I believe that worked. Although it's a little annoying that this power pole rotated a little bit. But now we can see everything is beginning to fill in in this area over here. So now we'll do a similar thing over here, where I think we'll build off of this intersection. So we'll grab that and then come straight off. And this is where some of our residential is going to sit. Alright, so I think this is a good base for a small residential area. So we'll plop down some low density housing along here. We don't want any of it growing on this large main road here, so we'll just dezone everything that's trying to build along there. And now we need to pretty much do the same thing we did for the industrial area, which is pretty much just to connect up water and sewage, and then connect up power, which not too sure how we can do this. I think we can just drag it from one of these roads. Just bring it across like so. Yeah, that connected. And then from here, connect up to there. And it looks like everything is working out just fine. Although we do still have to connect our water and sewage, so we'll just throw that along there. Okay, so we've pretty much handled most, if not all, of our demands with this small area. I think once it begins to fill in, it'll look quite nice. So we'll just let this alone to build up and fill in, and we'll come back and check on it later on. So next, what I want to do before I forget about it is come into our landscaping options and grab some trees. And I'd like to just pretty much scatter them around this neighborhood. It'll help provide a little bit of separation in some areas where some of these more open fields are. So if we can just get this to fill in and place wherever we need it to, I think that'll end up looking pretty nice. So we'll choose a few different trees, some different strength options, just sort of quickly drag it over the whole neighborhood. And all these trees are going to start out pretty small to begin with, because trees actually have to grow in this game, so they pretty much start out as small as they can be, but after a year or two they'll be more or less fully grown, and that'll just help to really make it look like this area has been here for a while and like it's supposed to belong, pretty much. Now, coming back and zooming in on this neighborhood, there's a lot of weird terrain things going on with the buildings that are zoned, so I want to come through here and flatten out some of the spaces where I can. For example, right here, this would probably not be as steep of a hill. It'd probably slowly die off into this field, and a couple of other areas that are similar to that, such as here, will flatten it out a little bit so that this slope isn't as steep, and just pretty much go around and do a lot of stuff like that. Alright, so we were able to come through here and smooth out a lot of the terrain. There is a few spots where we couldn't do that, such as this area where the zoning gets a little too close and the height's just a little too far, but I think that's okay. I think maybe at some point we can come back and hide these a little better with trees and bushes, but for now I think it's in a okay enough state where we can leave it alone, because I want to let a lot of these buildings upgrade and become close to their full size and full level, because I'm not sure if when they level up, if they get bigger, like if these two lots would combine into one, but we'll see what happens as we continue to go through. But let's get on to expanding this area. So I think what I actually want to do with this intersection is first, let's pause so we don't create any major issues. And I'd like to make this connection probably the more important connection, and then have this road intersect into the road that we have over here. So if we can get this to work properly, we'll just sort of have to guess with no snapping, but do something like that. And I think we'll have to delete this house. But now what I want to do is upgrade this road pretty much from here all the way across this way into a 4-lane road, because essentially I think this road's going to run the entire way down the island, so we're going to need it to be able to carry a pretty high volume of traffic. So what we're going to want to do is replace it pretty much right on center. That's unfortunately going to break our grid, at least in the areas where that comes through. But then what we can do is continue to upgrade this road like so, all the way to the end of the neighborhood here. So while we're here in our road menu, I do want to come through, and if we have the option, add some upgrades to our roads. And so let's add some trees along this road here. And it looks like we have to click twice, one for each side, for each segment of the street, which is a little annoying. But this will also prevent cars from parking on the sides of the road, which is something we probably don't want on our larger streets anyway, so this is a good way to prevent parking, and it also just helps the street look a lot nicer. So there we go, we have our nice tree-lined road and a tornado in the background. Hopefully this isn't heading towards our city, but I guess this is our first natural disaster that we're seeing. I don't know how many there are, but I guess this tornado is here. Luckily, I don't think it's headed in the direction of our city. I think it's headed the other way. But pretty nifty to see one of the natural disasters. Hopefully, they won't be destroying our city anytime soon. So we'll just let that go off and do its thing. But anyway, back to upgrading our roads. For our main road that comes into this island, I just want to put grass on the side. I don't necessarily want to do trees, but I think grass can look pretty nice. So, there we go. Again, that prevents parking on this street as well, so it's a lot cleaner as you drive into the city. You don't see cars parked along the street, at least on the main road when you come in. So now that it's light out and we can see, again, the main reason I wanted to do this road was so it can extend all the way down the coast of the island on this side, and we can keep this grid going and just sort of slot into it whenever it meets this larger road. And then eventually I think we'll get a second large road on the other side of the island for everything that happens along this coast. But of course we're nowhere near that happening, but just future planning things that I'm thinking about. But anyway, coming back over to this side, it looks like everything's built in quite nicely, and we have a bunch of demand growing up again. So I think I want to start to flesh out this area, get some commercial, maybe a little more low density housing growing in this area. So let's get on with that. So this road we're going to keep as a 4-lane road, but we're going to need it to curve so we can avoid the water. So we'll grab onto that snapping point, and we want to come off at a perfect angle from that intersection, and then just follow along the coast a good bit. And I think I want to clean this up a little more so we can get some straighter edges running through the map. So we'll come back off of this intersection. We'll get a 180-degree angle so we can come off at a straight line. Again, a 90-degree angle, and then this one will upgrade to our 4-lane road and bring it around something like this. So then all we should need to do is come straight off of this intersection a little bit, and then hopefully we can get a nice smooth curve to connect. Okay, so we got our grid going on over here, and we can begin to populate it. So we'll start off with some commercial along this road. This should be enough to serve pretty much this whole area. And then I kind of want this to be low to medium density. So even though the demand is largely for low density, we'll throw a row of them there. And then maybe over here as well. And then I think these areas we're going to fill in with medium density row housing. And then eventually, hopefully whenever the demand arises, it'll begin to fill in these medium density apartments. So instantly all the stuff that's in demand is getting filled in. It's going to take a while for everything else to fill in, but I think that's a nice extension onto this area, and hopefully we can continue to expand that as we unlock more tiles when we level up here pretty shortly. So I want to begin to take a look at some of our infographics here. So taking a quick look at education, it seems like everyone's slowly starting to work their way through the system. We have mostly poorly educated and educated citizens, with a small population being uneducated. I'm not sure if we have... yeah, we don't have the college unlocked yet. Let's see if we have the development points for it. So we do. So maybe we'll place down a college so we can start to get higher level jobs coming into the city, or at least a higher skilled workforce. So placing our college down, that's going to be a little tricky. Trying to figure out exactly where we want it. And I think we might place it right here on this tiny little street, which instantly brings us up to the next milestone. So now we're a boom town, almost at the big town category, but you can see here we've unlocked a few more things. Nothing too crazy. I don't think we really unlock tons of things from this point forward, but most importantly we now have more development points and more tiles, so we can then go through and use those as we need. But we can see our college, there's definitely enough people eligible, so now it just needs time to work everyone through the system. So there are a few upgrades for the college, but nothing too crazy. So as we continue to expand, I think we'll just pretty much skip one block. So I'm just going to extend these roads out for future reference. And then we'll get the grid size nailed down later on so it matches what we have here. But this one block size should be enough for the college to expand as the city gets much bigger. So it seems like our issue with commercial not having enough customers is slowly going away. I think as this area begins to slowly fill out, and adding this area I think helped out a little bit, but we're almost done dealing with this issue. So hopefully it doesn't keep coming and going, and we can continue to move on without having to worry about it. And now, the very last thing I want to do in this episode is create some districts. So we'll grab the district creation tool, and we'll start here on this street. And I want all of this to be one district, so we'll come and extend up, and we'll pretty much draw the line right here where the split between our grid and small neighborhood is, and then we'll just follow the coast around to the highway, where we'll connect back up to this road and complete this district. I think we'll randomize the name until we get something that we like, but let's set up our districts first. So next I want to get this whole industrial area. So we'll come around here pretty much the same way, and then connect that road. And then we'll want to cover this whole neighborhood, and then we'll follow this road back until it connects there. And then just 2 more districts, I think. Or maybe we can combine this all into one. So let's just combine this all into one district. So the industrial and residential areas will all fall under the same area, and this will extend out to the edge of the highway. And I think that'll pretty much do it for our districts as of now. So let's come in here and take a look at some of our policies that we can apply to Mulberry Dale. Interesting name, but so I think what we're gonna do, because we want this area to be a lot nicer, and this is a pretty small neighborhood, so we'll put in speed bumps and recycling. Yeah, we'll keep those 2 in for now. I'm not too sure, since we have the district following this road, if that applies on this street as well. I'm not too sure, but I guess we'll find out eventually, or if any of you guys know, let me know down in the comments. And I don't think there's any other policies I really want to apply in any other areas. We don't really have anything for industry or anything that'll benefit any of our other neighborhoods, so I think we're pretty much gonna leave it at that. So that's pretty much gonna be all for this episode. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or feedback, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.